The galaxy had many rules. The strong took from the weak, the many crushed the few, and children who had no value were thrown away like broken tools. The Dominion understood these rules better than anyone. They had built their empire on them. 17 star systems, 11 conquered species, 1,000 years of power. They looked at humanity and saw something strange. A young species, emotional, wasteful. Humans spent resources on their old and sick. They built schools for children who might never become useful. They cried at sad stories and laughed at silly jokes. The Dominion found this amusing. Weak species always had strange habits before they were conquered. On a quiet morning in the frontier, a colonial transport ship called the Morning Star moved through empty space. It carried 847 people to a new colony world. Farmers, engineers, teachers, families. In cabin 7C, a little girl named was drawing pictures on her tablet. She was 8 years old. Her hair was tied in 2 small braids, and she had a gap between her front teeth that showed when she smiled. She was drawing her family, her father with his big hands, her mother with her kind eyes, and herself in the middle. Her father worked with plants. He could make food grow in places where nothing should live. Her mother healed people when they were sick or hurt. They were not important people. They were not rich or powerful. They were just a family looking for a new home. Did not know that 3 Dominion raider ships were approaching. She did not know that in 30 minutes, her whole world would break apart. The attack was fast. The Morning Star had no weapons. The captain sent out distress signals, but help was too far away. Within an hour, Dominion soldiers walked through the corridors with their weapons raised. Remembered the sounds, screaming, crying, her mother holding her tight, her father standing in front of them, trying to look brave even though his hands were shaking. The Dominion soldiers were tall. Their skin was gray and smooth like stone. Their eyes had no warmth in them. They looked at the humans the way a farmer looks at cattle. They began sorting people. Strong adults were pushed to one side. They would go to the mining colonies. They could dig and carry and work until they died. The old and the very young were pushed to another side. They could not work, they could not fight, they had no value, they would be processed. Did not understand what processed meant, but she saw the fear in her mother's eyes, and she knew it was something terrible. A soldier grabbed her arm and pulled her away from her parents, screamed and tried to hold on, but another soldier hit her and she fell. Rushed forward, but 3 soldiers knocked him down and held him there. Reached for them, her small fingers stretched out trying to touch them one more time. She saw her father's face, the tears running down his cheeks, the helpless rage in his eyes, the love that could not save her. And then she was gone, dragged through a doorway, thrown into a cold room with other children. The door closed and she was alone. But was not finished. As the soldiers held him down, his hand found the emergency beacon on his belt. It was a small device meant to send a signal if something went wrong. Every colonist had one. Most people never used them. Press the button. The beacon began recording. It captured the coordinates of the ship. It captured the sounds of chaos around him. It captured crying from somewhere far away. And it captured voice. 3 words. The only words he could manage before a soldier saw the beacon and crushed it under his boot. They took her. The signal flew through space at the speed of light, past asteroids and empty moons, past gas giants and dying stars. 11 hours later, it reached a communication station on the edge of human territory. A young officer named was working the night shift. She almost missed it. The signal was weak and broken. Just noise, really. She should have filed it and moved on. But something made her listen again. She heard the crying, she heard the words, and she understood. Within 1 hour, the signal reached Earth. Within 2 hours, it reached the desk of Defense Minister. Within 3 hours, every news channel in the United Terran Republic was playing it. People stopped what they were doing. They stood in the streets, in their homes, in their offices, and they listened. They heard a father's voice breaking. They heard a child crying in the darkness. They heard what the Dominion had done. And something changed. Something old and powerful woke up inside humanity. Something that had been there since the first mother held her first child. Something that said, "This is wrong. This cannot stand. This will not stand." The Senate building filled within hours. Representatives who had argued and fought for years stood together now. There were no parties anymore, no factions, no politics. There was only one question. What would they do? The answer came from an old law, Article 7 of the Constitution. It was written 200 years ago when humanity first went to the stars. Most people had forgotten it, but the words were still there, carved in stone at the entrance of every government building. No citizen of the Republic shall be abandoned. No exception for age. No exception for number. No exception for cost. The Dominion had taken a child who belonged to humanity. And humanity was going to get her back. Admiral had gray hair and tired eyes. He had served the Republic for 40 years. He had seen many things, wars, deaths, the quiet cruelty of space. He thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. The Senate chamber was full. Every seat was taken. People stood in the aisles and crowded at the doors. The air was thick with anger and fear and something else, something dangerous. On the main screen, the ambassador appeared. His name was hard to pronounce, so humans just called him the Voice. He was the one who spoke for the Dominion. He was the one who explained their actions to lesser species. The Voice looked bored. This was a small matter to him. A few hundred humans taken from a ship. It happened all the time. Why were these people making such noise about it? Defense Minister stood at the center podium. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had never raised her voice in public. She did not need to. When she spoke, people listened. "Ambassador," she said, "you have taken 847 citizens of the United Terran Republic. We demand their immediate return." The Voice made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Demand? Little species, you do not make demands of the Dominion. Your people are now property of our empire. They will serve us until they die. This is the way of things." The chamber erupted, shouting, cursing. Someone threw something at the screen. Security officers moved through the crowd trying to keep order. Raised her hand, silence fell. "I see," she said quietly. "And the children, the old, what will happen to them?" The Voice waved a hand as if brushing away dust. "They have no value. They will be processed. Their biological material will be recycled for." "Stop." The word cut through the air like a blade. His face had changed. The calm was gone. Something cold and terrible had taken its place. "There is a child," she said. 8 years old, her name is. Her father sent us a message before you took her. We heard her crying." The Voice tilted his head. He seemed confused by this information. "One child? You mobilize your government for one child. This is strange behavior. The child has no strategic value, no political importance. Her parents are simple workers. Why do you care about this one small thing?" Stared at the screen for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was steady and cold as ice. "Article 7 of our Constitution says that no citizen shall be abandoned. It does not say only the important ones. It does not say only when it is easy. It does not say only when the numbers make sense. Every citizen, no exceptions." She stepped closer to the screen. Her eyes never left the Voice. "Her parents are watching this transmission right now. They are in a refugee center on Luna Station, waiting to hear what we will do. And every other citizen in our republic is watching too. So let me be very clear, Ambassador. You have taken something that belongs to us. You have taken a child from her mother and father. You have 72 hours to return her and all the others unharmed." The Voice leaned forward. His gray face showed something like amusement, And if we do not, then we will come and get them ourselves." Now the voice truly laughed. The sound was ugly and harsh. "Come and get them. With what? We have 2,000 warships. Our empire has stood for 1,000 years. We have crushed species far more powerful than yours." He shook his head slowly. "You have 300 ships, maybe 400. You would burn your entire civilization for these few hundred people. For one child, this is madness." Did not smile. "No, Ambassador, this is humanity." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a moment no one in the chamber spoke. Then slowly Admiral stood up. All eyes turned to him. "Defense Minister," he said, "what are your orders?" Looked at him. "How many ships can you gather in 72 hours?" 112. Third Fleet is ready to move. Others can follow within a week." 112 against 2,000. Closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them there was no doubt in them, no hesitation. "Admiral, you will take Third Fleet to Dominion space. You will find our people. You will bring them home." Saluted. "And if the Dominion resists, then you will show them what happens when you take our children." Across the Republic people watched. In their homes, in their ships, in stations scattered across 100 worlds. They saw their leaders choose to fight an impossible war for impossible reasons. And they did not think it was madness. They thought it was exactly right. On Luna Station, in a small room with gray walls and harsh lights, and held hands and watched the screen, they saw speak their daughter's name. They saw an empire laugh at the idea of saving her. And they saw their people rise to fight anyway. Began to cry, not from sadness, from something bigger, something she could not name. Squeezed her hand and whispered, "They're coming, hold on, they're coming." Somewhere in the darkness of space, a fleet began to move. The nebula was beautiful and deadly. Purple clouds of gas stretched across millions of kilometers. Hidden inside were rocks the size of moons, waiting to tear ships apart. Only one safe path existed through the nebula, and the Dominion knew it well. They had placed 800 warships at the entrance, a wall of metal and fire. Nothing could pass. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Light. Through the main window he could see the enemy fleet. So many ships, so many guns pointed at him and his people. His tactical officer stood beside him, was young, smart, scared. He hid it well but could see it in his eyes. "Admiral," said quietly, "they outnumber us 7-1. Their weapons are stronger. Their shields are thicker. Every simulation says we lose this battle." Nodded slowly. What did the simulation say about a little girl waiting alone in the dark? Had no answer for that. On the enemy flagship, the Dominion commander watched the human fleet with confusion. He had expected them to stop at the border, to negotiate, to offer tribute and beg for their people back. Instead, they had come straight to his door with barely 100 ships. "They are not even trying to hide," his second officer said. "They approach in open formation. Their weapons are charging. Commander, they mean to attack." The commander made a dismissive sound. "Let them. They will break against us like water against stone. After we destroy them, we will take more of their people. Clearly, they have not learned their place." He did not raise shields. He did not change formation. Why would he? This was not a battle. This was an execution. On the Soul's Light opened a channel to his fleet. 112 ships, 40,000 people, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, all of them here because somewhere far away a child was crying. "This is Admiral," he said. "I will not lie to you. The enemy is stronger. They expect us to be reasonable, to calculate losses, to decide that one child is not worth our lives." He paused. Through the windows the nebula glowed purple and gold. "But we are not here because it is reasonable. We are here because it is right. Somewhere past those ships, past all that fire and metal, a little girl named is waiting. She has been alone for 16 days. She thinks no one is coming for her. His voice grew harder, stronger. "We are going to prove her wrong. All ships full attack. Break through that wall. Break through anything they put in front of us. We stop when is safe, not before." The fleet surged forward. The Dominion commander finally realized something was wrong when the first human ship did not slow down. It was a small frigate called the Bright Hope. Instead of firing from a safe distance, it accelerated straight at a Dominion cruiser. "What are they doing?" the commander demanded. "That ship will." The Bright Hope crashed into the cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The explosion tore a hole in the Dominion formation. Through that hole, human fighters poured like water through a broken dam. The battle became chaos. Human ships did not fight the way other species fought. They did not try to survive. They did not retreat when damaged. A burning destroyer rammed into an enemy carrier. A crippled cruiser overloaded its reactor and took 3 Dominion ships with it. Captain commanded a squadron of fighters. She was 32 years old. She had a son back home who was learning to walk. She thought about him as she flew her damaged ship into an enemy weapon platform. "For," she whispered, "for all of them." The explosion lit up the nebula. On the Dominion flagship, alarms screamed. The commander stared at his screens in disbelief. This was not possible. These humans were dying, throwing away their lives, and they would not stop. "Commander," an officer shouted, "they have broken through the western flank. Their main force is pushing into the nebula." "How? We outnumber them 7-1. "They don't care." The officer's voice cracked with fear. "Sir, they don't care if they die." The Battle of Nebula lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 340 Dominion ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans lost 67. The surviving Dominion vessels fled in chaos. They sent messages to their filled with panic and confusion. The same questions repeated again and again. Why won't they stop? Why won't they negotiate? What do they want? Admiral stood among the wreckage. His flagship had taken heavy damage. Smoke filled the corridors, but they were through. The gate was broken. Approached him slowly. The young officer looked different now. Older. The fear in his eyes had been replaced by something else. "Admiral," he said, "we received a transmission from the Dominion Command. They want to know our demands." Looked at the stars beyond the nebula. Somewhere out there, across 3 more star systems, was waiting. "Send them our answer," he said. "Tell them exactly what we want." The message went out across every frequency, every language, every corner of Dominion space. It was simple, it was clear, it was a promise. "We want our daughter back." And the fleet moved on. The High Council met in an ancient chamber beneath their capital city. The walls were decorated with bones of conquered species. Skulls hung from the ceiling like trophies. For 1,000 years, this room had represented their power. Now it represented their fear. Counselor was the eldest among them. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had ordered the death of millions without losing sleep. But as she read the reports from the front lines, something cold grew in her stomach. "Explain this to me," she said slowly. "We have the largest fleet in the quadrant. We have weapons that can crack planets. And you are telling me that 100 human ships have pushed through 3 of our defensive lines." The military advisor shifted nervously. "Counselor, the humans fight in ways we have never seen. They do not follow logical patterns. They sacrifice their own ships to create openings. They ignore losses that would break any other species. Our commanders do not know how to respond." "Then get new commanders." "We have, Counselor, 3 times. The result is always the same." Stared at the map on the table. Red markers showed human fleet positions. They were moving through Dominion space like fire through dry grass. Not conquering, not occupying, just advancing, burning everything between themselves and one small moon on the edge of the home system. "What do they want?" another counselor asked. "Territory, resources, tribute." "No," said quietly, They want the child. Silence fell over the chamber. One child, a young counselor said. They have lost 200 ships for one child. 12,000 of their people have died. This is madness. No rational species would. They are not rational, interrupted. That is what we failed to understand. They do not calculate the way we do. They do not weigh lives against resources. When we took that child, we broke something inside them, something old, something dangerous. She looked at the bones on the walls. 11 species. All of them had been rational. All of them had calculated acceptable losses. All of them were dead. Perhaps, she said slowly, rationality is not always strength. On a mining colony called Thresh 4, Captain Minu led a strike team through dark corridors. They had been fighting for 3 hours. 9 of his soldiers were dead. The rest were wounded, tired, and running low on ammunition. But they were close. The data terminal is ahead, his scout reported. Heavy security, at least 20 guards. Minu checked his weapon. He thought about his sister back home. She had cried when he left for this mission. She had begged him not to go. For one child, she had asked. You would die for one child you have never met. He had not known how to explain it. How could he tell her that was not just one child? She was every child. She was the promise that their civilization made to its people. You will never be abandoned. You will never be forgotten. You matter. If they broke that promise they broke it for everyone. Move in, Minu ordered. The fight was brutal and fast. Minu lost 4 more soldiers breaking through the guards. By the time they reached the terminal, only 5 of them remained. His tech specialist, a young woman named, connected to the system with shaking hands. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead, but she did not stop. Searching for transfer records, she muttered, looking for human prisoners, children. The screen filled with data, names, numbers, locations. And there it was, age 8, transferred from Processing Facility 7, current location, Central Processing Center Prime. The itself. Minu closed his eyes. They had come so far, lost so many, and the child they were hunting was in the most protected place in the entire empire. Captain said quietly, "What do we do?" He opened his eyes and looked at his remaining soldiers, wounded, exhausted, but in their eyes he saw the same fire that burned in his own heart. "We send the coordinates to Admiral," he said, "and we keep moving forward." On the Soul's light received the message. He stood on his damaged bridge, surrounded by officers who had not slept in days. Outside, the remnants of his fleet gathered for the final push. 137 ships remained. The Dominion had over 1,000 in defensive positions. Admiral said carefully, "Their defenses are unlike anything we have faced. Their planetary shields alone could withstand our entire fleet. If we attack Prime, we will lose everything." Looked at the data on his screen. File. A small picture showed a little girl with braided hair and a gap-toothed smile. 23 days. She had been alone for 23 days, scared, cold, believing that no one was coming. Said, "Do you have children?" The young officer hesitated. "No, sir." "I do, a daughter. She is grown now, has children of her own." Touched the screen gently. "When she was 8, she got lost in a market, only for an hour. But I remember her face when I found her, the relief, the joy, the way she held on to me like I was the whole world." He turned to face his officer. Parents cannot go to her, they cannot hold her, they cannot tell her that everything will be okay, so we must do it for them. That is what we are. That is what we do. We find the lost children and bring them home. Nodded slowly. Something changed in his face. The doubt faded. The fear remained, but it was not important anymore. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Looked at the stars. Somewhere behind them Prime waited, 1,000 ships, shields that could stop anything, an empire that had never known defeat. "Set course for there," he said. "We end this today." The The sky above Prime burned with fire. 1,200 Dominion ships held formation around there. Their shields overlapped, creating a wall of energy that nothing could penetrate. Their weapons were the finest in the galaxy. Their crews were veterans of 100 conquests. They watched 137 human ships approach, and they felt no fear, only confusion. Why were these creatures still fighting? Why did they not surrender? Why did they not understand that this battle was already lost? Admiral stood on the bridge of the Soul's Light. His uniform was torn. His face was gray with exhaustion, but his eyes were clear and steady as he looked at the enemy fleet. "All ships," he said. "This is the final battle. Beyond those ships is a little girl who has been waiting for us. She has been waiting for 24 days. She is scared and alone, and she thinks no one loves her enough to come." His voice broke slightly. He steadied himself and continued. "We are going to show her that she was wrong. We are going to show the entire galaxy what humanity does when someone takes our children. All ships, attack." The human fleet surged forward like a spear thrown at the heart of an empire. The Dominion commanders expected the humans to break against their shields. They expected logic to finally win. They expected this foolish species to realize that some walls cannot be broken. They were wrong. The first wave of human ships did not try to survive. Pilots flew their damaged vessels directly into the shield generators. They crashed against the energy walls at full speed, overloading the systems with raw kinetic force. Each explosion weakened the shields. Each death opened a crack. Captain commanded a destroyer called the Unbroken. His ship had lost half its crew in the earlier battles. Its engines were damaged. Its weapons were running dry. When he saw a gap forming in the enemy shields, he did not hesitate. "All hands," he announced over the ship's speakers. "Abandon ship, head for the escape pods." "Captain," his first officer asked, "what about you?" Smiled sadly. "Someone needs to fly this ship into that gap. The pods won't launch if no one is at the controls." His crew understood. They did not argue. One by one, they saluted him and ran for the escape pods. Waited until the last pod launched. Then he pushed the engines to full power and aimed his ship at the crack in the enemy shields. "For," he said. The Unbroken hit the shields like a hammer. The explosion tore open a hole 3 kilometers wide. Through that hole, a single descended toward the planet below. Captain Minu sat in the back of the with 14 soldiers. They were all that remained of his strike team, all wounded, all tired, all ready to die. The shook violently as it entered the atmosphere. Enemy fire streaked past the windows. Twice, they were nearly hit. Twice, pilots somehow kept them flying. "Landing zone in 2 minutes, shouted. "The processing center is directly ahead." Minu checked his weapon one final time. "Everyone ready?" His soldiers nodded. They did not speak. There was nothing left to say. The crash down in a courtyard of gray stone. The door opened. Minu led his team into hell. The processing center was a maze of corridors and security systems. Guards came at them from every direction. Minu lost 2 soldiers in the first hallway, 3 more in the second. They pushed forward anyway. On the 3rd level, automated turrets cut down 2 more of his people. Minu took a bullet in his shoulder. He kept moving. On the 4th level, a security team ambushed them. The fight was close and brutal. When it ended, only 5 soldiers remained standing. Minu looked at his team, was bleeding from a wound in her side. Private could barely walk. The others were not much better. "The holding cells are ahead," said weakly. "One more corridor." Minu nodded. "Let's finish this." They moved down the final corridor. The door to the holding cells stood at the end. A single guard remained, but he ran when he saw them coming. Minu reached the door. His hands were shaking. His shoulder screamed with pain, but he entered the access code that had found in the data terminal. The door opened. The cell inside was small and cold. Gray walls, harsh lights, a metal bed in the corner. And there, sitting with her back against the wall, her knees pulled to her chest, her eyes red from crying, was a little girl. She looked up. Her face was thin. Her braids were messy and coming undone. She looked like she had forgotten how to hope. Minyu knelt slowly. He removed his helmet so she could see his face, so she could see that he was human, that he was here for her. His voice was gentle, soft, the voice of a father even though he had no children of his own. "My name is Minyu. I'm from Earth. Your mom and dad sent us to bring you home." For a long moment she did not move, did not speak. Then her lip trembled and tears began to fall. "They said no one was coming," she whispered. "They said I didn't matter. They said humans don't save people who aren't important." Minyu felt his heart break and mend at the same time. He reached out his hand. "They were wrong," he said. "You matter. You have always mattered. Your mom and dad have been fighting for you every single day, and our whole republic came to bring you home." Looked at his hand, looked at his face, looked at the soldiers behind him, wounded, bleeding, but smiling at her with tears in their eyes. She reached out and took his hand. "Let's go home," Minyu said. Above them, the battle ended. The Dominion fleet surrendered. Their empire, built over 1,000 years of conquest, crumbled in less than a month, not because humanity wanted their planets or their riches, but because they had taken one child. 3 days later, a transport ship docked at Luna Station, walked down the ramp holding Captain Minyu's hand. Her parents were waiting at the bottom. When and saw their daughter, they ran. They fell to their knees and wrapped their arms around her and held her like they would never let go. Buried her face in her mother's shoulder and cried, not from sadness, not from fear, from something bigger, something that felt like being found after being lost for a very long time. Admiral watched from across the hangar. A reporter approached him. "Admiral, humanity lost over 12,000 people in this war, 206 ships. Was it worth it? For one child?" Watched the family. He watched laugh through her tears at something her father said. He watched kiss her daughter's forehead again and again. "Yes," he said quietly, "it was worth everything." The reporter started to ask another question but walked away. He had somewhere to be. His granddaughter was waiting for him at home, and he had promised to read her a bedtime story. Because in the end, that was what they were fighting for. Not territory, not power, not glory. Just the simple right of every child to be loved, to be protected, to be brought home. And humanity would burn down every empire in the galaxy to protect that right. Every single one.